Welcome to the NPERS Elder Fraud presentation. Some people believe that elder fraud and scamming in general will just never happen in Nebraska, but I can personally tell you that I've seen it to neighbors and friends, and I don't want it to happen to you. Statistically, there are people who will watch this video that will need this information, so share it with others. Today, I want to equip you with some tools and useful things to protect yourself and those that you love or care about. According to the Office of Victims of Crimes, run by the Department of Justice, over $3 billion are lost annually to elder financial fraud. In 2023, of the crimes reported, Nebraskans lost $9.64 million. It happens here, and unfortunately, it happens everywhere. Of the crimes reported, do you know the number one reason that some of the crimes don't get reported? People are embarrassed. And the second one will really break your heart. The second reason that crimes go unreported every year is because people in this demographic don't want people to know, particularly their friends and family. They don't want them to know because they don't want them to begin to doubt their cognitive abilities. That's why we have these discussions, because the people who perpetrate these crimes are criminals and they're very good at what they do, which is separating you from your money. So today, let's try and protect you with some information. Even simply talking about it and making people aware that it's going on can sometimes save an individual from falling into a trap, and that's why we do this. I want to cover some recent articles just to prove to you how big of a deal this is. In October of 2024, KLKN reported on a 79-year-old Lincoln woman who was scammed out of $800,000. The scam began about a year ago when she tried to dispute an unauthorized transaction on PayPal, and someone pretending to be a PayPal representative called and requested money to investigate. She sent the scammer $1,000 to $2,000 at a time, including Bitcoin and gift cards. In November of 2024, WOWT reported that Nebraska Attorney General Mike Hilgers filed a lawsuit against Nebraska social media influencer Elizabeth, or Liz, Friesen, and a company she worked with called Wi-Fi Money, alleging participation in drop shipping scams. Quote, tricked with empty promises of money-back guarantees, unquote. Nebraskans lost approximately $3 million in savings participating in these scams. At least 60 Nebraskans were led to believe, mostly through social media posts, that their participation in an e-commerce automation would result in big payoffs, pay tens of thousands of dollars to get themselves set up to manage e-commerce stores on Amazon and Walmart.com. The lawsuit alleges that each consumer who paid into the scam lost at least $15,000 and that several lost more than $100,000. This is a big deal. In December, Lincoln Electric Systems reported an increase in customers reporting scams. The most recent report involved customers receiving phone calls from someone posing as LES, threatening to disconnect power within an hour if payment was not made. Also, in December, KLKN reported a 67-year-old woman from southeast Lancaster County received a text message from Apple saying her ID card was fraudulently used. The scammers then directed the woman to take $21,000 from her two bank accounts and deposit that money into a Bitcoin ATM at a business in Lincoln. Only after did she realize that it was a scam. In even bigger news, you may have heard about the Nigerian man who was extradited to Nebraska after more than a year and a half behind bars in Ghana. He was charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud. From January 2015 to September of 2016, he was part of a ring of scammers targeting businesses in Nebraska and elsewhere. Businesses lost over $6 million in an email spoofing scam posing as executives of a company. It's just shocking, and it happens everywhere. Here are some of the most common fraud schemes that we're going to touch on today. I'm sure you've seen some of these, but we're going to cover each one. Most investment schemes are socially engineered and trust enabled, usually initiated through a romance or confidence scam, and they evolve into an investment scam. You've seen them, those infomercials or an ad online saying that you can learn how to make lots of money. It sounds quick and easy and low risk, and it might involve investing in financial or real estate markets. The company says their system is proven, and they even have testimonials from people who've used their system and gotten rich. But those people could be paid actors, and their reviews could be made up. All investments have risks. No one can guarantee a specific return on an investment, and nobody can guarantee that an investment will be successful. Anyone who does promise you a guaranteed return at low or no cost or no risk is a scammer. Take time to research the offer. Search online for the name of the company and add words like review, scam, or complaint. Don't let this happen to you or to those that you love. 2. Tech support scams. They offer to fix non existent computer issues. The emphasis there is non existent. Then they gain remote access to a victim's computer or phone and their personal information. If this happens to you, hang up. And if you need tech help, go to someone that you know and trust and call them at a phone number that you know to be true. The one that shows up in your search engine isn't always legitimate. Business email compromise or BCE scams. These are growing, and you might have heard them called phishing scams or email extortion scams. Using emails and websites that falsely represent or claim to be legitimate banks, financial institutions, or companies, they manipulate internet users to disclose personal and financial data. Extortion scammers have valuable scare tactics at their disposal. Their messages show that they know a password that you use for your online accounts. They claim to have implanted malware on your computer that lets them capture your keystrokes, watch through your webcam, and amass evidence of your online history that may be private. They then threaten to share that information with all your contacts and social media unless you pay hush money. If this happens to you, here are a few things that are important to know. Use secondary channels or two-factor authentication to verify requests for changes in account information with the intended recipient. Verify the email address used to send emails, especially when using a mobile or handheld device, by ensuring the sender's address appears to match who it's coming from. Ensure the settings of your or your employees' computers are enabled to allow full email extensions to be viewed, meaning the end of their email address. Monitor your personal financial accounts on a regular basis for irregularities such as missing deposits, right? You want to know if you didn't get paid when you're supposed to get paid. Contact your bank, request a recall or reversal, as well as a hold hard list letter or letter of indemnity. Do this as quickly as possible to reduce or eliminate your financial losses. And then file a complaint. And we'll talk about that just in a little bit. Romance scams. This one has been popular for a long time, and it still remains to be so. After gaining your trust, whether it takes weeks, months, or even years, they tell you a false story and ask for money, gifts, or your bank account and credit card details. They don't keep their promises, and they always have an excuse for why they cannot travel to meet you and why they always need more money. Scam artists often claim to be serving in the military or employed in a trade-based industry engaged in products outside of the United States. Be careful sending photos because this could turn into further exploitation. Government impersonation scams. This one is growing. Scammers claim to be a government employee and threaten to arrest or prosecute victims unless they agree to provide funds or other payments. Things like, a warrant has been issued for your arrest and a U.S. Marshal will appear at your door within the next 24 hours, are said. Another common one, Medicare cards. We hear about this all of the time, especially at NPERS when we do presentations with Medicare ship. Medicare cards will never be laminated. If someone's claiming that you need to collect your laminated Medicare card, hang up the phone. If you want to reach a government agency, find their contact information at usa.gov. Grandparent scams. Have you seen the film Thelma? It came out last year and it was all about this. Someone calls from an unknown number crying hysterically that something has happened to them, and it's a family member that's in crisis. A grandparent responds and says, "Is this Johnny?" Insert grandchild's name here. And they believe them because they have a hook and they now know your grandchild's name. For grandparents in Scribner, Nebraska, they didn't realize it was too late until they physically handed cash to a courier who then drove off. Look up your family members' phone numbers for yourself, or consider calling another family member to check out the story before giving any information or sending any money. Give them another name that you don't have in your family. For example, if I don't have anybody in my family named Heath, say, "Oh, is this Heath?" And if they say yes, you automatically know that it's a scam. Or create a password with your family members. This one was actually posed at a seminar last year. There was a family who was very excited because they have an individual in their family who serves in the military. And so every time they're on a phone call to make sure that it's them, they use a password. "Hey, Grandma, it's Naomi. Bananas." That's all it takes. And it's totally free. Get your whole family to make a game out of it so that you can stay protected and so can they. Cryptocurrency scams. Out of all of these, this is the biggest up and coming one. Scammers are making the most money from it. According to the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, cryptocurrency is a digital representation of value that is not backed by any government or central bank. Unlike government-backed money, the value of virtual currencies is driven entirely by supply and demand. Cryptocurrency investments have far less regulatory protection than traditional financial products like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. If you get nothing else out of today, with all of these other items on the list, avoid utilizing cryptocurrency ATMs and kiosks. Nebraska ranks 41 out of 57 of the U.S. states and territories, losing $14.5 million to cryptocurrency scams. $14.5 million just for the state of Nebraska. The United States, however, is the leading country in cryptocurrency loss out of 20 countries with a record $4.8 billion. That's a lot. That's considerable money. Don't let it happen to you. Scam calls. You ever gotten a call from yourself? That's what a spoofed number is. We see that happen a lot. So just for your record, NPERS is never going to call you for your money, right? These scam callers call you and they request your money. NPERS is never going to do that. Why are we never going to do that? Because we have your money. The Attorney General's office in June of 2024 posted announcing issues with government imposter scams. There's an increase in government imposter scams in Lancaster County, especially those impersonating local law enforcement offices or court officials. As you can see here, Butler County Sheriff's Office, Crete Fire and Rescue, lots of people call from these numbers requesting money. April 4th of 24, the AGO's office also posted something about family emergency and grandparent scams involving scammers reaching out to Nebraskans by phone and text with emotionally gripping stories and an urgent need for money. Scammers pose as family members in crisis. That's right where they want you, in crisis, because you would do anything for your family, would you not? They often also pose as authority figures like bail bondsmen, hospital representatives, attorneys, police officers, requesting money on behalf of your family members. Make sure you hang up and you call somebody else to figure out what's true. Another example, the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs in December, just a few months ago, posted something letting people know that there were people trying to attempt to collect donations on their behalf. State agencies do not solicit donations, and the NDVA would not call you to ask for one. Back in June of 2024, the U.S. District Court for the District of Nebraska posted this: U.S. Marshals, court offices, and other law enforcement officials seeking to collect a fine in lieu of arrest for failing to report to jury duty. It was a scam. To appear more credible, the scammers may spoof the court's phone number and the caller ID, provide information such as badge numbers and the names of actual federal judges and law enforcement officials, and even courthouse addresses. They want to make it appear as real as possible. If you are suspicious or concerned, hang up, call the correct number, and let them know. So how do you protect yourself? This is the most important part of the whole video today. First, recognize and end communications. There's no need to use your what we call Nebraska nice. Simply just hang up the phone on them. I gave you permission. Just hang up. 2, search it online. You can use the White Pages phone reverse lookup or Google the name of plus the word scam after it in your search bar. If the website is less than 6 months old, please utilize caution because this may be an indication that it's a scam. Not always, but maybe. Act slowly and be cautious. Criminals will urge their victim to act fast to protect their device. The criminals create a sense of urgency to produce fear and lure the victim into immediate action. Be careful using words like yes. Today's software can record your voice and reuse it for authorization that you knew nothing about. Never give out your information. Just like we've talked about, ask for a grandchild or a family member who is not in your family. Make sure you're not giving out your birth date or your social security number or your address or anything that they might use against you. Update your antivirus and pop-up blockers. Everyone always asks what the best program is that they can use for antivirus, but I'm going to tell you your number one priority should be making sure that your computer gets its regularly scheduled updates. A lot of the time when Windows or Mac does an update, they add patches to protect your computer from viruses or areas where they're finding weak spots. Please be careful what you download. Be hesitant to download items, especially if you don't know what it is or exactly where it came from. Do not click on unsolicited pop-ups, links sent via text messages, or email links or attachments. Specifically with the pop-ups, be careful about where you click on them at all. It doesn't matter if you hit the X. Sometimes that is also a link to attach things to your computer. Do not contact the telephone number provided in a pop-up text or email. And do not download software at the request of an unknown individual who has contacted you. Finally, act immediately. If something happens, please contact someone immediately and let them know. Contact that grandkid or family member in crisis with the correct number and check on them. If you suspect that you may have been a victim of financial fraud or exploitation, please consider contacting your financial institution immediately upon discovering any fraudulent or suspicious activity and direct them to stop or reverse the transactions. Go further and dispute fraudulent or inaccurate information on your credit report with one of the credit bureaus. This is often something that people forget about. They don't think about a credit bureau and how it might affect their credit score. But you've worked hard for that credit score and somebody else wants to steal it. Don't let them. So now I've encouraged you to file a complaint. Where do you do that? Well, here's exactly where you can do it. The National Elder Fraud Hotline. File a report with them and they'll set a case up for you and talk you through your next steps. This is 100% confidential. Even if you think that you have been taken and you are embarrassed, at least you have someone to talk to and now you have help. As of October of 2024, the National Elder Fraud Hotline reported receiving over 50,000 calls this past year. The website is at the bottom, where you can call 1-833 372-8311. That's fraud 11. This is the Nebraska DHHS Adult Protective Services, or DHHS Area Agency on Aging Hotline. You use this to report the neglect or abuse of a vulnerable person. Now, this is one of the scams that I did not cover, but it's fairly prevalent and it's a caregiver scam, which is very unfortunate. This is so sad to see when things like this happen. And we all know what it looks like. Mom's supposed to have a caregiver that you're paying to help with her bathing, her medication. You get there to visit her, and it's very obvious that she has not bathed in a long time. Maybe she has sores or wounds, and maybe she hasn't had her medication in a long time either. If you need the number to call, now you have it. 1-800-652-1999. There's also other information on DHHS's website under their Adult Protective Services area. This one is super cool, and it comes from the Nebraska Attorney General's office, or the AGO's office. protectthegoodlife.nebraska.gov. Now, this site is specific for Nebraska residents and CART, or the Consumer Affairs Response Team in Nebraska. CART engages with Nebraska businesses and consumers to facilitate a voluntary resolution of customer complaints. You can report a scam, you can file a complaint, and you can also get on a do not call registry if you want. It's a great resource to utilize. protectthegoodlife.nebraska.gov. As of January 22nd, 2025, Attorney General Hilgers announced the successful recovery of over $1.4 million for consumers throughout 2024. So they really are trying to help people and get them their money back. And finally, this is IC3, so Internet Crime Complaint Center. IC3 was established by the FBI in May of 2000 to receive complaints crossing the spectrum of cyber matters. So anything cyber related. Tech or customer support and government impersonation scams are responsible for over $1.3 billion in losses among all complaints recorded to IC3. So if you need it, now you know it's there. Simple to remember, ic3.gov. Not only do you know about some of the scams that we're seeing across the state and across the United States as a larger area, but now you have places where if you are a victim of fraud, you can access help. So please, if you need help, reach out. If you know somebody that needs help, share these resources with them, or be the person that can advocate on their behalf and help them through the process as well. Don't let people intimidate you or your family. I want to make sure that you stay safe, you have a happy retirement, and so do your friends.